Hello and welcome back to the FSF podcast. I am Tim. I am your host, and this is the show that is made by nerds for nerds. So, welcome to the Nerdatorium. Our guest today is a longtime voice actor who has entertained us on shows and video games like Rise of Tomb Raider, The Last of Us Part 2, Cyberpunk 2077, Phantom Liberty, Fallout 76, Wastelanders, Star Trek Picard, Jurassic World, Camp Cretaceous, and there's a whole lot more. She's got a really cool resume, by the way. You're going to want to check that out. There will be a link to her IMDb stuff down below so you guys can see all that. Anyway, I am super excited to welcome Kay Bess to the FSF podcast. Welcome to the show, Kay.
Thank you so much, Tim. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. It's kind of funny. It wasn't even until today that I realized that you had done something for Star Trek.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I knew about your video game work. I knew about Jurassic World, Camp Cretaceous. I knew about some of the other things. For whatever reason, I had totally just kind of slept on the whole Star Trek Picard thing. So, yeah, that was kind of interesting. I was like, oh, well,
yeah.
Star Trek Picard.
Yeah.
That's a big one.
Yeah, that was a gift from the heavens, that job.
Absolutely. Perfect.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to talk about that in just a couple minutes here. But First and foremost, the very first question I have to ask is because I like to know what makes people tick, why they do what they do, what got them interested in being who they are. And basically it comes down to the fact that I'm a nerd and I love a good origin story. So in the origin of Kay, what got you interested in voice acting? What made you say, that's what I want to do?
Well, it's kind of funny. It really, it wasn't a thing that I looked at and said, that's what I want to do.
Even better.
I am a singer and an actor, and I left my hometown and traveled south 100 miles to Los Angeles to go to college and majored in theater. And it's a long, crazy story, but I dropped out at the beginning of my junior year and then was kind of floundering around a little bit. Mm-hmm. I thought, well, why am I in school? I should be pursuing an acting career. But it was also such a crazy time. Anyway, I didn't do much pursuing. But I happened to be looking through one of the trade magazines, and there was a class that was offered, just a one-day workshop to kind of introduce you to voiceover. And nobody had classes in those days. I mean, this was a long time ago. This was like 1983, so
right.
long ago. So, and I had done in my hometown, Santa Barbara, I had done some jingles, and I had, by virtue of doing those, the producer that was there said, do you mind just reading that little script in between, in the space in between the jingle? And I said, sure, I'll do that. So when I saw this class, I thought, oh, I think I've done a little voiceover thing.
Right.
So I decided to take that class, and that was the beginning. I mean, that was it was almost like it was ordained. I was really uncomfortable in front of a camera. It just was not for me. And I went to this class, and there was a casting director there, and we all got up and worked, and she recorded us on reel to reel. And then the following Monday, she called me and she said, I think you'd really be good at this, and you should take a reel class. And she pointed me to a man by the name of Tom Pinto, who's a, long-standing voice actor, still working, just amazing.
Okay.
Took his class. He said, you should make a demo. I made a demo with him, and he said, yeah, you should send it to agencies. I sent it to 3 agents. And I was picked up by William Morris Agency, who was building their scale department at the time. They only had a celebrity voiceover department. And there you have it. That's how it began. Inside of 30 days, I booked my first job for a brand new car company called Mitsubishi. And it was a radio spot. And
nice.
And I was off to the races. And honestly, it happened so fast. And like a little bit storybook, like, oh yeah. You take a class, you make a demo, you get an agent, you get work. And that's exactly what happened to me. And really, aside from the very rare but real, drops in work and the cyclical nature of things and the roller coaster ride, I have been working ever since. And it was really
Nice.
along the way, because at first, it's like voiceover in the 1980s was, when you wanted to be a film actor, was like about as low as you could get. It's like you come to LA to be a film actor, but if you can't do film, you do television, and if you can't do nighttime drama, you do sitcoms. And if you can't get a sitcom, you do daytime soap operas. And if you can't do soap operas, you do on-camera commercials. And if you can't get into on-camera commercials, you do voiceover. It was kind of the bottom rung of the ladder,
Okay.
But it's not like that anymore. It's such a coveted profession, But I would say probably 5-6 years in, I thought, I think I won the lottery, and I didn't really quite grasp it. Like, what a great gig,
Oh,
So,
for sure. Yeah.
yeah.
I think it's interesting that you noted that on-camera work wasn't for you. And I think it's interesting too, because a lot of the voice actors I've talked with over the years have mentioned that on-camera work was not where they felt comfortable.
Yeah.
But they got in front of a mic in a booth, or nowadays in their home booths, and
Yes.
they feel empowered. They feel like they're really able to act. It's a less of a stressor for
Yes.
them, because they don't have to worry about how it looks, just how it sounds.
Yes, that's exactly right. I mean, it's certainly that way for a young female. It's like you're always being looked up one side and down the other, and sort of judged on how pretty you
Oh,
are,
for sure. Yeah.
and how thin you are, how tall you might be, and all of those things. And when you're young and impressionable and you just want to fit in, those things can wear on you, and it starts to kind of eat away at your self-confidence, So, and it just wasn't that way in voiceover, just didn't matter. Nobody's looking at you. Nobody cares, So, so that, I think that is a big piece. I'll just speak, just from my vantage point. I don't know that
Sure.
everybody who said, yeah, I don't want to be in front of a camera, has that same experience, but that was mine. So yeah.
No, but that makes sense. I mean, I've never been a young woman in their 20s, so I can't speak to that. But I have an 18-year-old daughter, and I know that the weight of sometimes of societal expectations, based on what we see in the media and what is projected upon young women, that there's a certain standard they have to hit.
Yeah.
I can only imagine that would get magnified tenfold, being in front of a camera and having people judge you, like you said, height, looks, weight, everything,
Yeah.
So,
and I have to say, it's a realistic part of the business, and it isn't. And I think you just have to have your head on straight for that kind of stuff. I watched somebody. It was a voiceover session, but the people working on the commercial campaign were in the booth, and they were looking for on-camera talent on their computer, and I was done, but they had me sit in the control room and just wait for an edit, and I was watching them and listening to them go through headshots, on the computer. And it's almost like, they're judging you. Really, it's like, there are two people in the shot, and do we want two blondes? Do we want two brunettes? No, we have one in their cast, so we can't, blonde can't, it's as simple as that. Or even like, it kind of reminds me of my Aunt Marie, past, that kind of thing. And it's like, doesn't have anything to do with you as a person, right? It's just the parameters of the shoot. That's really it, So
yeah,
it doesn't feel like that when you're on the other side, It just feels.
I
like,
imagine not. Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that gives me a little bit of insight into you, and I appreciate that. Now, for a little more insight into you, I went to your website and I was kind of stalking around. I call it research. Some people
Yes.
call it digital stalking. But yeah, I was checking out your website, and I noticed, and I love that your bio mentions your dog. Um,
You
yeah,
may
your dog's
interrupt us tonight. You never know.
yeah.
Yeah.
You said that you have a dog, albeit unstable. Uh, that just cracked me up. I'm sure that Stella is the goodest girl. But my curiosity is what makes Stella emotionally unstable.
I think it's just the combination of her breeds. She's a mutt. She's a Maltipoo Terrier, and I think she got the nervous system of all three of those dogs. So she's so hyper nervous. She doesn't like to be touched. She's not a cuddly dog. Like,
Okay.
she won't. She doesn't. She just doesn't. She doesn't like affection. I mean, what kind of dog is that doesn't like affection? She's bit two people closest to me, like drew blood. She bit my daughter, like stitches on her ear. Like because
goodness.
my daughter picked her up wrong. It's like, you can't pick my dog up because she can't. I think her skin is really sensitive, frankly, but she's just, and then she barks at everything inside the house,
Sure.
the house. But when we're on a walk, she doesn't bark at people or anything like that. But she is truly, in that regard, she's nervous and she's irritating, but she's helpful. Like, I know when somebody's outside, because
Right.
she barks. So I appreciate that about her. But she is an exercise in my accepting the otherness of a creature, because she is just not like any dog I have ever known, and I just have to look at her and go, all right, I have to let you be who you are.
Right.
You are not what I expected, but you are who you are, and I'm going to love you. If it's the last thing I do.
You will let me love you.
I say that all the time. It's just, I will love you.
I love it. That's fantastic. Yeah, that's funny. All three of those dogs are nervous shakers to begin with.
Yes, exactly.
And so she's got the trifecta of nerves.
Totally.
That would totally do it.
Just
I have
little chihuahua to like really make it
happen. God, yeah. She would explode.
She would explode.
There'd be little bits of Stella everywhere because the nervousness would just
spontaneously convulsed. Yes.
Oh, goodness gracious. Yeah, we always talk to people about their pets on the show. I'm a big pet lover. I've got 2 dogs and a cat myself. Our pit bull does the same thing that your dog does, though. If we're inside, she has to sit on her perch at the top of the couch that looks out our bay window.
Yeah. Yep.
And she'll sit there, and she's perched on the top of the couch, paws up there, and just looking and making sure that the outdoor is safe. God forbid a leaf move in the front yard, because she's going to bark at it.
Yes.
But every time we take her out for a walk, nothing. Absolutely. Not a bark, not even a whimper.
Nope.
Nothing. She's just like, well, I had some things to do. So, can we get back? I got some barking to do. It's just, dogs are funny.
I have to keep my shutters closed in my living room. Thank God they're on two. I can open the top ones because she can't see out those, but the bottom, I have to keep closed. Otherwise, my whole day would be filled with barking, and I have to record. And it's
it's at a certain point it gets hard to explain why the dog is losing their mind in the other room. So
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, for a few months, while in between setting up this recording space and the recording space that I had, I was recording from our living room, and I had my desk in there. My work desk is in there, and everything. So I was recording from that. And every time I was like, okay, I need somebody to take me. Her name is Mia. She's the sweetest dog in the world, and wants nothing but love and affection. But she's also, I have seen Pebbles with more brain power. She is not the smartest, but I always tell everybody it's a darn good thing she's so cute and so sweet.
Yeah.
Because if she wasn't, whew,
Yeah.
yeah. But yeah, because how she has remained functional this long with that one brain cell telling herself to breathe, I don't know. But all right, so yeah, dogs are funny things. They're interesting.
Yeah.
So one of the other things I noticed, Kay, on your website now, you told me pre-show that this is no longer a thing that you are doing, but it kind of correlates into A, what we're talking about here, and B, one of the other things that you do. Now you had a podcast called The Beehive.
Yes.
Which I'm assuming has to do with your last name, Bess Hive, I'm guessing. But you could probably clarify that for me. But if you would, tell people what the Beehive was about and what you're doing now that's kind of similar.
Yeah, sure. The Beehive was a podcast that I started when I was in this sort of strange, like I said, every once in a while you have a lull in your career as a voice actor. And I was like, oh, things are so slow. And I was like, I think I'm going to do a podcast. And I decided I was going to do a podcast interviewing women in voiceover. That everybody's heard, everybody's heard them, but nobody knows their name,
Right.
And so that's really what the podcast was about. And the Beehive was really, it's funny. We were talking about Rob Paulson earlier. He actually helped me name that, because we're very good friends. We've known each other for a really long time. And he calls me Katie B. And then he started calling me the Mighty Bee. As you know, he's a nut,
he is in the best way possible.
Yeah, exactly. And so then I want to say that he suggested the Beehive. And then I thought, well, that's kind of good because it's it's like girls in my little studio, all abuzz, and so that's just,
sure.
So it was like, yeah. I don't like to spend too much time thinking about those kinds of things because, man, I could get lost and I could never get it done, for lack of a name. So that's really how it came about. It was kind of came from Rob, and it did.
All right.
To the first letter of my last name. So yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what are you doing now though that's similar to this? I know you're doing a little bit of teaching.
Well, I do some voiceover coaching, which I really love. I love to coach. And I really love to coach in group settings in particular, because they're so helpful for voice actors to be able to hear other people work.
Okay.
Well, sometimes when it's just you, when it's just one-on-one, sometimes you don't absorb as much because you're the only one on, and you're the one trying to do the work. And so sometimes it's hard to absorb all of that. But when you're in a class setting, a group setting, you get the benefit of watching everyone else work and listening to everyone else. And so I started a membership group. It's actually called the Membership Collective, and which is a little bit of a nod to the Borg. But I coach twice a month. I have 2 coaching sessions, and then once a month I have a guest interview Q&A of a voiceover veteran who's been in this for a long time. And so that's sort of where I get to do a little bit of interviewing as one would do on a podcast. It's a 90-minute session, and I talk to the person for about 45 minutes, and then we do a Q&A with everyone in the group for another 45 minutes. And it's great. I just started it in June of this year. So Rob Paulson was actually my guest this past Tuesday, and he was my 3rd guest. So, yeah.
Okay.
So that's what I'm doing. And it's great. I like it a lot. And we don't record them. They're not uploaded anywhere. It's old school,
Just be a member of the group. Yeah.
You got to be a member of the group. Yeah. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
I like it. Okay. So let's talk about being in the business for a while. You've you've done quite a few things, as your resume would suggest, and we talked about some of the IPs that you've been a part of in the introduction, and right away, like I said, there was one that I didn't realize till today that you were part of, and you said it was a gift. So being part of the Star Trek community is a huge thing. It's one of the most largest and most recognizable IPs probably out there. So I know you said it was a gift, but what does it mean to you both personally and professionally to be part of that universe?
Well, I think that for me, the gift is, it's really more on the personal side because I am a really big Star Trek fan.
Oh, cool.
I came late to the franchise, although I do remember my brother, who's 10 years older than I am. I remember he had the original series on, and so I peeked in every once in a while as a little girl.
Sure.
And was like, what is that nonsense? When is the monkeys on? And so, but I really wasn't familiar, in any real direct way. And I've never watched any of the series first run, right? So after I had my daughter in 2003, my husband at the time was Next Generation came on, and
Okay.
he was watching it, and I started watching it, and I'm like, what are we watching here? And then he said, I really think you would like this series. I think you'd like it. I think you'd really like Data. I think you'd really like all the existential questions that are bandied about throughout the series. And so I was like, okay, well, I'll watch it. And it was on, I think it still is. It was on BBC America every day. And it ran, a couple of episodes every night, and then it carried on in order, so wherever, right. I don't know where I was, but I just started where I was and I just picked it up. And then when the whole thing started over again, I watched it again. And I swear to God, Tim, I watched Next Generation for a decade every day. I watched it every single day, a few episodes every day. So that was my entree into the world of Star Trek. And then eventually I was like, I wonder if any of the other series are good. And then I started watching Voyager, and then I just fell in love with Voyager. It's still my favorite of all of the series.
Okay.
And so I love it. I love Gene Roddenberry. I love the whole concept of it. I love that it's obviously futuristic, but they ask age-old questions and they deal with age-old, human problems. And and I particularly love the captains. I find them to be extraordinarily well written and complex characters, and so I just kind of fell in love with all of them, and so when the way that I got this role, was I had done some Siri-like things, never Siri directly, but, just in commercial work and stuff like that. And so it was very common for me to get auditions for the voice of a computer, and it was like, okay, well, I can do that, And so I got this audition, which was very generically the voice of a computer. And it didn't say anything. It was under NDA. It didn't say what it was. It just was like, read these lines. And they gave a voice kind of, what's the word I want? Like a sample that they, kind of wanted it to be like. And it was Majel Barrett, and I thought, oh, well, I know that. That's, I know her. I had no idea that they were casting for Picard. I had no idea, because I would often get that kind of like, we want a Star Trek ship voice kind of a vibe. So that was not uncommon for me to do that. So So I did
Oh, okay.
I did my best version of her, while still trying to be myself, but I almost didn't read for it because I got the audition kind of late at night and I was so tired. I was just like, oh God, I'm not going to book this. Why should I, all the things that go through your head. And then I thought, Kay Bess, you can actually do this in your sleep. So why don't you just go into the booth and record the thing, And I was like, all right, it's a conversation with myself. So I went in and I recorded. I did my 2 takes, my 3 takes, because it was really short script, like 3 lines or something. And I went to bed and I turned it in and went to bed. And then a couple days later, they were like, they want you to read a few more lines. And I'm like, okay. Script attached. And on that script, at the top of the script, it said Star Trek Picard. And I was like, what? And then I got nervous, I wasn't obviously I was going to read on the thing because I was tired. How ridiculous is that? So anyway, I read again, and then I think it was a couple weeks later where I was like, well, you booked that. And I was so genuinely thrilled. I was just thrilled, because I love the series so much, because I love the franchise so much, and I love Picard. And, so it really was like this for my career. It felt almost like this crowning glory that I got to be even remotely attached, to the franchise.
I understand.
But so it was just kind of thrilling. And then I ended up, I did the first season, and I got to go into the post-production studio in Burbank, and I got to read to picture, and that was fun. And I think I don't know, I didn't do all of the episodes, but I did most of them. And then COVID came along, and they stopped filming in 2020. And so, it's sort of like, is this going to happen? Is this going to, and so they changed showrunners for the second season. And so they, in essence, kind of auditioned me again. And so I auditioned again, and they kept me, and, but they were recording from home. They were, well, what they would do is they sent me to Burbank to pick up gear, to pick up recording equipment, to bring it to my house. And then they would connect to me through their whole little system. And then I would pack everything back up, and then I would take it back out, And after the second time of doing that, I said to my agent, I'm like, did they know that I have better gear than this? Like I have better. And so I said, I think it would just be easier for the engineer if we just hooked up via Source Connect, or, And so she called them, and the engineer was like, oh, that'd be great. So I didn't have to go pick up a gear anymore. And it kind of allowed me to, once we established it, it allowed me to move out of state. So it was in the middle of season 2 of Star Trek Picard that I moved from Los Angeles to Nashville, and I recorded most of the episodes for season 2 from Nashville. And they never even knew, I didn't, they would book me at like 10 a.m. Pacific. It's like, okay, 10 a.m. Pacific, it's the same number, it's the same microphone, it's the same everything, so it was kind of funny. But anyway, and then of course at the end of season 2, I think the ship is like given over to the Borg. So I'm not in season 3, but I'm just totally thrilled to be in it. Like it really, truly,
that's fantastic.
Yeah. And that's what I mean. It's a gift. Like it really was a gift. And in the personal and professional sense. So, yeah.
I understand. I have a dream that someday, some way, somehow, I will see my name somewhere in a Star Wars credit. It
Yeah.
doesn't have to be for acting. It can say Tim held the water bottles. I don't care. I just want to see that.
Yeah.
That's the dream. Whether it ever, doubtfully it will ever happen. But so I get that in that very real sense. Being a big fan of a property and
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, you probably can't tell that I like Star Wars.
I see.
not even a giveaway.
Yeah.
But yes, no, completely understand that. That makes a whole lot of sense to me.
Yeah.
But yeah, because actually, it wasn't even for me. It wasn't even until the last couple years where I was like, oh yeah, I could watch Star Trek. That's fine. I guess for whatever I ignored it, put it on the back burner for the longest time. I never watched TNG, Voyager, DS9 in their first runs.
Yeah.
Not even Discovery was in its first run. Strange New Worlds is the first time I'm sitting down and watching a Star Trek show the day that the episode releases and everything else. I've never had an opportunity to do this before. Mostly because I was like, Star Trek. Who wants to watch Star Trek?
Spoken like a real Star Wars fan.
Exactly, yeah. And it turns out I like to watch Star Trek. I quite enjoy it.
Yeah.
And I think for a lot of the reasons, and I tell people this, they're like, what made you get interested in Star Trek? For me, it was, you mentioned that, it's futuristic, but they talk about age-old questions.
Yeah.
And I love the fact, and I've told people I think up until maybe the Andor series, there was never a Star Wars where I shut it off and went, wow, I got to think about that. Trek makes me think about myself and the way I carry myself, the way I act towards other people, the way I look at the future, the way I hope other people look at the future, and a few other things. And Star Wars, I'm like, whoo, they blew up the ship. Yay. We're going to light speed. It's, those things are fun too, but, so for me, that's where it all kind of came about. And I remember I think I watched, Strange New Worlds almost on a whim because a friend of mine, she runs a Trek podcast, and she's like, well, and she knows that I love like Star Wars Clone Wars and Star Wars Rebels, the animated series. So she was like, check out Prodigy and Lower Decks. So I watched those and I was like, okay, fine. I guess I kind of like Trek. This is kind of nice. And then I went from that into Strange New Worlds. So
that's an interesting route in,
animation was my gateway drug, so it got me in.
So have you ever watched TNG and Voyager? And
I'm actually in the process of watching TNG right now. I'm in season 4, I think.
That's season 4 is where things kind of start to get good. End of season 3.
Yeah. So I'm either in mid to late season 3 or mid to late season 4. So I don't remember. I'd have to go back and look because it's been a hot minute since I've been able to watch some TNG just because of life, work, and so outside of this lovely podcast of which you're a part of today. I also I write for a website called Couch Soup, and I'm participating with their Watching Now podcast, which is we're covering Strange New Worlds on Couch Soup. So I'm having to watch that, and so the time that I would typically have spent watching other things, I'm like, okay, I got to watch Strange New Worlds, and I got to watch it a couple times so I can understand what's going on in the episode, so I can talk about it and not sound like a blubbering, floundering fool.
Yes,
I mean more than usual anyway. So,
well, it's funny. Like I said, I've watched both of those series, TNG and Voyager, multiple times through, all the way, and I still can't remember names of particular episodes. I mean, there are some I can, but I listen to them while I cook,
Okay.
And so now it's just, I know exactly what's going on. I know what line is coming next. I know all those things.
Understood.
And as soon as the episode comes on, I go, oh yeah, I know this, but I never went through the process of memorizing the names of the particular episodes. So
see, I'm that way with Star Wars when it comes to like the Clone Wars, Rebels, the Obi-Wan series, Andor. Those are things that I've watched multiple times, and I put on those shows because it's like a comfort show, right? You put it on, you know what's going to happen. I don't have to. It's something I
Totally.
don't have to pay attention to. I can
Correct.
walk out of the room for a couple minutes, come back, like, oh, okay, cool. They're at that part.
Exactly right. It's exactly
Yeah,
right. And
yeah,
in Star Trek land, all's well that ends well. I mean, it's always nicely wrapped up. There's
yeah,
always a resolution to the thing, which just, kind of feels good these days, just to have something wrapped up,
something positive.
something
No,
positive wrapped up.
yeah. What's that like?
Yeah.
But yeah. So yeah, I completely get that. But I thought of this while you were talking about you auditioning for that character. Now I know that sometimes you get a some voice actors have told me in the past that they'll get like a character description sheet if they're doing their audition, what they're looking for,
Yeah.
or sometimes they even get a picture if there is one available of what the character looks like.
Yes.
How does your process work when you get that description or that image of the character that they're asking you to voice? How does your process work for the creation of that character? What do you go through to get to the point of saying, this is what I think this character should look like or sound like, rather?
Well, I tend to be sent auditions for more grounded and realistic characters. So most of the time, a character is grounded in my own voice, the sound of my own voice. It's not like creating, an animated character that's kind of a hyper, a hyper part of my voice, right? And I've done those too, right? But mostly for the video game stuff and even the animation stuff that I've done, they're usually pretty closely aligned with what I sound like. And so then it becomes a matter of really getting inside the script and understanding like let's just take President Rosalind Myers in Cyberpunk 2077.
Okay.
So I look at that. I look at her and I say she's in a position of authority. She's high powered authority.
Mm-hmm.
They're at war, and she has relationships with other characters that are sort of typically political, if you will, right?
Right.
You behave with that person one way one day, and then depending upon what information you've received the next day, it shifts, right? One day you trust them, the next day you don't. And so that becomes sort of the position from which I move, and so it's really more relational as opposed to developing a voice. It's about developing the perspective of the character, and the attributes of the character, if you will. Right. So that's really how I go about it. For me, it's all in the script. There are clues all throughout the script that help me figure that out. Now, it's difficult sometimes with video games because you don't get the script. It's day by day, it's session by session. Everything's under NDA, so it's not like receiving a screenplay where you get to go through the whole thing and analyze and all of that. So I rely very heavily on the director telling me who this character is and how they behave. And I happen to have had a fantastic director on that production, Pierce O'Toole. He's a great voiceover director. And so I felt like he was really instrumental, in helping me to develop that character. But in a nutshell, For me, it's all in the script.
Okay.
And if it's an animated character, like I played a kind of a funny little character, and I think it's the Loud House. But I played like a Westminster dog show judge, and that was really based on what the character looked like, And so she was sort of older, gray hair, kind of granny glasses, and kind of
Sure.
a little portly and round in the middle, and they wanted her to be sort of a little pious, a little, it's taking her work very seriously. And
Sure.
so,
Okay.
you think about all those things, and you just sort of experiment a little until something seems right, and then you just start recording, and a character
Okay.
emerges. I don't know exactly how else to describe it, but that, a character emerges, and then you go back and listen and say, how do I heighten that? Because animation is always heightened, whatever it
Okay.
might be. It's like, whatever it is, let's take it another 75% up, and so that is a piece of the process for me. A lot of people start heightened. I don't. I never have. I've always been somebody who,
Okay.
I make small moves, but if somebody then says, you got to crank that up another 100%, and I'm like, okay, that, like, I have the parameter now, and so then I kind of go for it. But very often in an audition, I will, at an animation audition, I will look at the features of the character, and I talk about this all the time. Like, do they have buck teeth? Do they have a
Mhm.
lip? And then all of a sudden, your character kind of starts to get created, and then you go from there. You
Right.
just look, and sometimes you do the opposite of what they might be. Perhaps someone is it's little and does not look very imposing, and so you give them a giant imposing voice, and it creates this juxtaposition, and or the opposite, so, and sometimes you fall in line. It's a small diminutive character, and so is the voice. Again, you just kind of make these choices and let your imagination run wild. And that's also a good basis for creating, two takes on an audition that are completely different, from each other. So,
All right. Very cool.
yeah.
I like it. That's cool. I think you explained it very well, by the way.
Good. Okay, good.
No, it made sense to me anyway. So, all
Good.
right. All right. So earlier I asked you a question, and I said I'd like to know what makes people tick. And this is a continuation of that same thought, and just in a different question form. So I call this suggestion time.
Okay.
I want to know what you're reading or listening to that you think everybody else should know about.
Oh, I got something for you. I
Great.
just finished listening to, like a month ago, I finished listening, but I'm probably going to listen to it again, a podcast called The Telepathy Tapes.
Okay.
And it is life-changing. And I don't really mean that in the self-help vein, it's mind expanding is what it is. And it really is about the inner world of non-speaking autistics.
Oh, interesting.
And it is an incredible and beautiful story. Like, it's just remarkable. Like, I don't even know. It's like, it's one of those things that's really hard to give a summary about, because there's so much in it that,
Okay.
man, it's just really interesting. But suffice it to say, it's 10 episodes, and each episode is like 45 minutes to an hour, something like that. And then there's some stuff after that, and I think they're doing a season 2, but I've just listened to the one season that I'm aware of that exists now. And it really is about, how, I mean, it's about the brilliance of these people that we are clueless about. It's about about some remarkable teachers and remarkable therapists, and about problems in the school system,
Okay.
that sort of place students who learn differently in a box and away, and we don't really seek to find out who they are and how they learn, and and instead we sort of set them aside, and kind of forget about them in a certain sense, or assume that they are not capable of learning. And
Right.
I think that's the biggest thing. And then you come to find out that they know so much more than we do. It's a remarkable series. That's
Okay.
The telepathy tapes. Two
Okay.
of my friends suggested it to me at different times. My first friend recommended it to me, and I listened to about 15 minutes of the first episode, and I just wasn't in a mood. Like, it seemed like a mystery to me, and it's, I don't know, it was really weird. The music that they used at least in the beginning, kind of gave me this sense that it was like going to be a little bit dark, and I was like, oh, I don't want to listen
okay.
to this, and then another friend of mine, like 4 months later, said, you have to listen to this podcast. And I was like, all right, well, that came around twice, so I gotta check it out now. So I invested myself in it, and then I realized that the first time through, I think maybe I was just a little cranky that day, because I listened to it and I'm like, this is fascinating. It's a mystery that's about to unfold, and every episode just reveals more and more, but leaves you with so many questions, and there's just so much more to come. And like, by the time you get to episode 9, you're just like, wow, it's fantastic.
Okay.
It's fantastic. It's very hopeful. It's there are beautiful stories in there that will, my breath was taken away a few times. Like I couldn't get breath. It was really beautiful. And I'm kind of a cynic, so I can't recommend it more highly. The telepathy.
I'm excited to check it out.
Yeah.
It's one of the things I love about this is that I started doing this question a few interviews back, and I'm like, man, you guys are finding some really cool stuff that I had no idea about, and so we've been some real cool book suggestions, a couple cool podcast suggestions, but yeah, I'm excited to check that out. I have a couple friends who have nonverbal children, and so that I think that might I'm always looking for insight into things that I don't understand, and I don't understand nonverbal autism. So because it's not in my household, I don't understand it. It doesn't affect me directly. I know people that it does affect very clearly, but so I look forward to checking that out.
Well, I'll tell you, my daughter is dyslexic and has ADHD, and she's a different learner. She's very right-brained, and in a certain sense, that's enough, to get a glimpse into how school systems handle kids with learning issues. Yeah. And it for us, like, it wasn't pretty. I finally pulled her out of school in 7th grade, and we just did homeschooling and tutoring and stuff like that. And so it gave me, I sort of stepped into this podcast with, with sympathy and empathy, just based on my own sort of minor encounter with the troubles of learning and getting teachers, to listen, just listen.
Yeah.
You listen to what's happening here, and not just put her on a drug. Like that, those kinds of frustrations, so
understood, actually.
Yeah. So I just feel like I learned so much, and it was so heartening. It was so uplifting. It's such an uplifting podcast, not without its, its sorrows, as you listen.
Sure. Yeah.
but ultimately just like, man, it's people who are different than, the mainstream have more to teach us than we ever imagined.
Absolutely.
So anyway, I could gush on about it forever, but
That's okay. I was enjoying it.
It's really good. So
yeah. Sometimes we just, I think podcasts like that and help us to remember that sometimes we just need to sit down, shut up, and let other people live.
Yeah.
And see what they're doing they're doing. Learn from them by silently watching them.
Yeah. And listen.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. 100% agree.
Yeah.
All right, Kay, you have made it successfully through the majority of this show. It's time to ask you a silly question.
Okay.
All right. So the basis of this question comes from one of our team members here at FSF Podcast. Kathleen was out and about with her daughter, and her daughter's I think she was about 5 at the time. She's 6.5 now. And I gotta say 6.5 because every once in a while she listens to this and she reminds me that how old she is. So be careful.
I love that. Why don't we do that as adults? I want to know.
Right, exactly. She keeps me on my toes.
I'm 35 and a half.
Exactly.
I'm much older than that. Not that you can tell, but anyway, just chose that number randomly.
Well, hey, it's the 39 and holding that a lot of people.
That's right. 39 and a half and holding. Yeah.
Exactly. So they were out and about, and somebody asked her daughter this question, and Kathleen thought it was rude that they didn't ask her because as an adult, we should never age out of this question. And that question is, Kay Bess, what's your favorite dinosaur?
Who's like the really big guy with the short arms and the big? Is that a Tyrannosaurus Rex?
The T-Rex, yeah.
That's my guy.
Okay.
I built a T-Rex with my classmates in kindergarten.
Awesome.
And I have a picture somewhere that I really should I need to find it. And
that sounds like a framer.
It's just fantastic. This dinosaur felt so huge to me, like it was just ginormous, and it's
right.
Really not that big when you really big as a kindergartner. But anyway, yeah.
It's perspective. It's perspective at that point.
Yeah, exactly. Tyrannosaurus Rex. He's my dude.
Okay, that's a good choice.
Yeah,
good choice. Have you ever seen the movie? It's a Disney movie called Meet the Robinsons.
No.
You should watch that if you love the T-Rex.
Okay.
There's a. I can't spoil it for you because I'm just not that guy. But whoever voices the T-Rex and I should look this up because I should probably find this out. He's got a couple lines in there that absolutely just floor me, and I laugh out loud watching that movie. It's so good.
Is it Sean? What's his name? Like isn't he in like The Princess Bride? Am I wrong about that?
I don't think it's Wallace Shawn.
What Wallace Shawn? Okay, I'm just guessing. I've never seen the movie, but I just feel like he would be a great voice of a T-Rex. Wallace Shawn.
Yeah. There's a lot of really good. I think they gave him a name. But I'll have to check it out. As I'm talking to you, I'm looking at the cast list. And there's too many people that are additional voices, so I'm gonna have to do a deeper dive on that. But yeah, Google was not helping me on a quick search.
All right.
But yeah, Meet the Robinsons.
All right.
It's a wonderful animated movie.
Okay.
All right. All right, Kay, thank you so much for being on the FSF podcast today. Where can our listeners go to find out more about you, your work, anything you've got coming up?
Well, it's all pretty simple, pretty easy to find me. I'm at kaybess.com is my voiceover website where you can find my demos and my bio and things like that. You can find me on Instagram at Kay Bess, and trying to think what else. And then there's my IMDb page. And I think honestly, you can just go and search my name there, but I think you can also do imdb.com/Kay Bess. And I think that takes you there too. So, but that's kind of where I live. And then it's a little more complex, but it's, if you're interested in my coaching and stuff like that, that is trustandbebrave.com. Trustandbebrave.com. That's my voiceover coaching site. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Otherwise, at Kay Bess, I'm very searchable. So,
all right. Well, I will make sure that we put those links down in the show notes down below, including the Trust and Be Brave. That way everybody can check out not only your work, but if they're interested in chatting you up for some coaching and things like that for voiceover, that would be a great way for them to be able to get in touch with you.
Fantastic.
Now, hey, guys, if you haven't already, following our show on YouTube is the most important free thing that you can do today. So if it hasn't already clicked up on the screen, there should be a button about now. And go ahead and click that button to make sure that you not only like, but subscribe/follow the FSF Podcast. Your doing so helps us ensure us to get more amazing guests like Kay Bess here today and have great conversations for you to be able to listen to. So please follow our show. Pretty please. Sugar on top. I would very much like it. It would mean a lot to me. Don't make me beg. I'm already kind of begging. Anyway, but yeah, help us out. Check out the show, and we appreciate it more than you'll ever know. And make sure to go check out Kay's work as well. She's done, I guarantee you, she's been in something that you've watched or played, and you're going to go, oh, yeah, that was Kay. Oh, my God. Like, kind of like I did. And went, oh, my God, I know that character. Go check out her stuff. Until then, thank you for watching and or listening to the FSF Podcast. And thank you to Kay for being on the show today. And guys, may the force be with you as you continue to live long and prosper. Goodbye.
Copyright 2025 FSF Podcast. Reference any specific product or entity mentioned on this podcast does not constitute an endorsement or recommendation by FSF Podcast. The views expressed by guests are their own, and their appearance on the program does not imply an endorsement of them or any entity they represent. If you have any questions about this disclaimer, please contact us via email at info@fsfpodcast.com.